You know, in the 1 year or more that I've been running this YouTube channel, one thing has become apparent to me beyond any possible doubt. And that is the fact that African Americans are convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that Africans do not like them. And at first, I was surprised to find out about this, and I tried to find arguments to counteract it. And I would say, no, it may be because of this, it may be because of that misunderstanding, it may be because of this factor or that factor. It does not come from a place of just prejudice or outright, hatred. It may be due to some misunderstandings. And I've been trying to explain this on this channel many, many times. But as I spent more time reacting and reading the comments and listening to African Americans, and sometimes Africans reacting to in my comment section, I came to understand that the relationship between African Americans is a long-standing relationship that has been rendered more and more complicated by long decades and generations of estrangement, misunderstanding, cultural differences, and to a certain level, tribal and national pride. And all of these factors contribute to a certain extent to the divide that exists between African Americans and Africans. And at some point I began to think, and this is seriously, as I sat down to reflect on this, as I, carry out my reaction videos, at some point I thought, maybe there's no point to it at all. Like maybe the bonds that once binded us have been, loosened for way too long, and maybe we have drifted too far apart and a chasm has opened too wide between Africans and African Americans, for there to be any reconciliation or harmonization of the two. There are some topics that are way too sensitive and, it's just difficult to resolve. There is too many generations with their different experiences, too many people with their different various characteristics and their own experiences, and you cannot really find a consensus on this side or that side. So the both sides, I began to think, cannot really come together at the end of all of this. So I thought maybe it's all fruitless. Maybe all of this conversation about, black people, let's unite, the motherland, our ancestors, the black this, or, Africans and African Americans living together and uniting and becoming one people, harnessing our strength together. I thought maybe these conversations at some point were just more of wishful thinking. But then something happened earlier this week that has got me thinking. Popular American streamer Cenat is an African American. He traveled to Nigeria, and I have spent time watching his vlogs in Nigeria and seeing how he interacts with the people. And that again has set me thinking. Maybe there are some things happening or some possibilities that we are not seeing. Maybe it is not so hopeless after all. Maybe, just maybe, there is still hope for that bridge or for that gap to be bridged. Maybe we have become too focused on the pains of the past while ignoring the potential of the present and the promise of the future. Because as I watched Cenat in Nigeria, I began to realize there are some things that we are possibly missing. So in this video, I want to talk a little bit on why that Cenat video or his visit to Nigeria matters. And I'm not trying to make out this young man to be a kind of a uniting figure, Marcus Garvey or something, but I'm just trying to say that he may be the signs or the emblem of the changes that are happening, which may be positive for this bridge to be united between Africans and African Americans. Because watching him in Nigeria and later on in Ghana just made me emotional for some reason. And I want to talk about why that visit matters. Sometimes when people try to distance themselves from Africa, when people try to estrange themselves from the continent, I dislike it and I don't support it, but there's a part of me that understands it. The portrayal of Africa in the media over the past, years has been just awful, disgraceful. The media made it in such a way that Africa was like everything that humanity was trying to escape from. Africa was the embodiment, the quintessence, the very essence of everything that humanity was trying to escape from. Poverty, disease, wars, corruption, all of these most negative aspects of human existence were all embodied in Africa, according to the media, right? And so nobody really wanted to associate themselves with Africa. And this portrayal of Africa as the dark continent kind of had psychological implications for both Africans, in my opinion, and African Americans. For African Americans, it was a constant reminder of this is where you came from. Not like this is where you came from and you should be proud of it, but more like this is where we took you from. And you should be grateful to us that we have you here and we're not sending you back there, because this is who you would be if we had not rescued you. That I thought was I think that is part of the message that was being sent. And the second part of the message was, you better toe the line, accept the disrespect that we dish out to you on a daily, or else we're going to send you back there. And there is horrible. It's hot. It's suffering. We all know the picture of the African child. That photo that was everywhere. The guy, the empty, naked, starving, disease-ridden African child with flies all over his face, scrawny and twingy and dying and suffering. That was the picture of Africa and Africans. And I believe that picture was purposefully perpetrated for that reason. First, to remind you or to tell you that you should be grateful to be here and that we rescued you from the worst that could ever befall you. And second, as a threat to say, hey, you must do as we wish. You must listen to us and obey in quietude, or else we will send you back there. For Africans, I believe it also had kind of an implication. And the psychological message that was being sent out by that portrayal, that dismal, disgraceful portrayal of Africa, was that you are incapable of doing anything. This is who you are. You are a disease. You are weak. You depend on us. Give us all your resources. You cannot use it. You're not intelligent enough to manufacture anything. You're not good enough. You're not advanced enough. All of your names, your culture, your clothing, your traditions, discard all of them and do what we tell you to do. Run your countries the way we want to tell you to run them, and do everything exactly the way we inform you. Because by yourselves, you are just not good enough. And I personally think that African Americans and Africans on both sides, part of this message was successfully transferred or transmitted into their souls and their minds. And that is partially responsible for the divide that exists between African Americans and Africans, and where Africans always see African Americans like, I don't want to associate with these people because, they most probably are criminals, or they are all of these stereotypical and prejudicial portrayals. And to an extent, I think that has been the purpose of the media, the role of the media in dividing these two people. Then comes the internet. And the good thing about the internet is it gives everybody the power to control their narrative. Now Africans can make videos about Africa. They can tell stories about Africa. They can talk about their experiences as Africans. African Americans, on the other hand, can also do the same. And so I believe that in this age of internet, of YouTube, of vast information being made available to us on every platform, anybody who is still ignorant chooses to be so. Anybody who continues to walk in ignorance walks in ignorance from their own decisions. African Americans have now been able to see Africa from a perspective that they had not been able to do so before. Now they can see the whole picture, not just some carefully curated, scripted, portrayal or image of Africa. They can see the story of Africans told by Africans. And that is very, very important. And then young Africans, on the other hand, can see the story of African Americans told by African Americans and not through the lens of the media. The medium of the traditional media, which had the power to control the narrative, has been taken away. So the narrative is now being made or put forward by the people who are actually, experiencing these things. And this is something that is happening now. So when Cenat visits Nigeria and he exposes Nigeria, the real picture of Nigeria, to his millions of young American followers, most of them which I assume are African Americans, it is huge. It is massive. It is something that our parents and their generations before could not have done. Africans are seeing African Americans, the lives of African Americans, as African Americans actually are, and not through the lens of the traditional media. And the same likewise goes for African Americans who have now gotten the chance to see Africa as Africa actually is. The good, the bad, and the ugly. But here's the most important thing. It is not a selected, curated picture of Africa. It is the complete picture. Now, Cenat's millions of followers can see the picture of the African child, not the picture that was shown on the media, the starving, donate $1 African child.
Meiosis is basically when it's reduction division. So cells are dividing, but they're going in half.
Wait, I was close!
Mitosis. Oh.
You asked me what mitosis is?
It's the picture of a hopeful, inspiring, inspired, motivated, ambitious child sitting in the classroom learning. It's the picture of a child who is confident, can express herself, who is knowledgeable.
It's basically division, but it's like you're creating an exact identical part.
Yeah, same thing.
Exact, like the same thing.
Oh.
Exactly. So meiosis is half, mitosis is the exact.
Yes, exactly.
And now they know that the African child is not limited to that starving baby. That image is gone. And I hope that African Americans are seeing that. And then, on the other hand, what really impressed me about the video as well was that, and actually I was surprised to see this, that many Nigerians and young Africans were quite, familiar with who Cenat was. I would not have thought so. I didn't think he was as popular in Africa, but that's by the way, it's actually a good thing, because now we see the picture of the African American as our parents, I'm talking as an African, did not see before. We see streamers, we see entertainers, we see doctors, young African American doctors, we see pastors, youth pastors, we see young African Americans who are out there doing good work, respectful work. And we can respect that. We can even identify with them. I heard many young Nigerians saying, "We love you, Kai. I want to do what you do." We can get inspiration from each other. This is something that our past generations could not do. They didn't know each other that well. But when I see African Americans and Africans sitting down and having a meal together, visiting each other's neighborhoods, understanding each other's stories.
I've been here for like 3 to 4 days now, and I'm just experiencing the country in itself. I've been eating amala. I've tried Nigerian jollof. I like it. First of all,
it's actually a very positive and inspirational thing. The internet has given black people across the Atlantic an opportunity to connect like never before. And I am so happy that brothers like Cenat are taking that opportunity. Where the older generation is still burdened by the past, the younger generation is vibing to the promise of the future. They are learning that they are quite like each other and that maybe they actually like each other. We often blame the Gen Zs and the younger generations for lacking seriousness and gravitas and not, being as committed to certain causes and certain identities as we would expect them to be, and being rather forgetful of the past and not identifying strongly and solidly and uncompromisingly behind some ideas. But I think in this particular case, it's actually quite interesting because young Africans, together with young African Americans, are not so burdened and tied up by the pains of the past. They are proving that maybe if we put the past behind us and come together to create a better future, we will discover that we like each other and that we do work quite well together. They say blood is thicker than water, and maybe the blood that we have shared and that we will always share is indeed thicker than the waters that separate us. I hope more African Americans come to visit the continent and I hope that more spaces are created for this young generation to bond and blend and learn about each other, and that the hate and the burden that we carry towards each other is gradually lessened over time as young black people come together to create a good future.